to episode 2 of Stitch and Screen, where I work on some stitches whilst yapping about what's been on my screen. If you don't know me, my name is Rajan, aka Not Half Bad Crochet, and if you enjoy crochet content like vlogs, day in the lives and tutorials, then maybe consider subscribing to my channel. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video, give it a little like and leave me a comment to let me know what you think. Also, let me know what projects you are currently working on and let me know what's been on your screen lately. So I am going to be weaving in the ends of my granny vest, which I have done a tutorial for. I just need to edit the tutorial. I don't know if it'll be out by the time this video is out. If it is, I will link it in the description. It's a really cute stripy vest with the granny stitch, and I've done like a split colour down the centre, and I think it looks really cute. So I've got to weave in some ends. Hopefully I'll be able to make a little bit of dent whilst I yap about what's been on my screen. So I'm gonna dive right in. I really want to talk about a film called A Nice Indian Boy, which I watched a couple of weeks ago now, and it is such a good film. Like, let me just preface this by saying that my top was drenched in tears from watching this movie, and I thought it was going to be a lovely little like rom-com, which it truly is, but I don't know if it's because I resonated with it a little bit more because I am Indian myself, but I don't know what happened. It just brought me to tears so many times throughout the whole movie. The basic premise of the film is that we follow a queer Indian man, and his family are relatively traditional. They're not particularly strict, but they're also not like, you know, super hyped on him being queer. They kind of want him to get married, and if you are South Asian or Indian, you have heard the term find a nice Indian boy. That is just a term that is used quite often. So the fact that this is the title of the film, I just think is so perfect. So we follow this man who's a little bit jaded when it comes to romance and love, and he's essentially kind of being not pressured, but he's being encouraged by his family to settle down, find somebody to get married, because that is, you know, what people deem important a lot of the time in Indian culture. And so he ends up meeting this white queer man, and they hit it off. They start dating, they end up wanting to get married, so he has to inevitably introduce him to his family, and the story just kind of unfolds from there. It's honestly truly beautiful. Like, some of the conversations that were had between the main character's family and also the main character kind of like dealing with a lot of his internalized racism, internalized queerphobia, I think was something really special to watch. I am somebody who's also queer, and I had a lot of internalized racism and internalized queerphobia when I was growing up, and so it just kind of felt really like, it felt very raw to kind of see it actualized and to see it kind of said so explicitly and so blatantly in a movie. I thought it was beautiful. There was one conversation that really stuck with me between the main character's dad and then the queer white man. It was just genuinely such a beautiful conversation. I think the way that they portrayed both of the characters, the way both of the characters just grew instantly in that moment, in that really kind of like relatively short conversation, I just thought was so lovely to watch. There was a speech that the main character's mum did at the wedding, which was also beautiful. There were so many moments between the two kind of main characters, the two grooms, and they were all beautiful. I think culturally it was very much on point, and for me personally, like, there are a lot of similarities between Hindu and Sikh weddings and Hindu and Sikh culture. Also American Indian and English Indian culture. Like, I think obviously because of where we are from, there's going to be some differences in terms of our nationalities, but there are also a lot of similarities. So it just felt very nice and like almost nostalgic and comforting in a way to kind of see it portrayed in a film, and see it portrayed so accurately as well, but not in a derogatory way. I think a lot of the time with South Asian representation in media, it can often be seen as like there's a lot of mocking, and it just kind of feels like it's been written by a white person. It feels like they're trying to make it palatable to white people, but this felt like very much true to the identity of Indian people, and even like a lot of different South Asian cultures, and the kind of the religion of Hinduism. And genuinely it was just so beautiful. It was really funny in parts as well, funny and cringe, but like purposely cringe because it's, you know, a rom-com, and it was just a lovely watch. And there was a moment as well that really stood out to me where the main character's mum, who is a little bit kind of not eccentric, but she kind of shows love in a really interesting way. And there's a moment where both of the main characters, where the white guy looks at the Indian main character and he literally just says, "Your mum loves you so much," and she's just she's just kind of like losing her mind a little bit. She's being weird, she's being wacky, she's being zany. And I was like, God, that is so true, because I have a very interesting and complex relationship with my mum, and I think that's why this kind of moment really resonated with me. And like the way that my mum shows love isn't the way that like a traditional mother shows love, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. And I think a lot of like South Asian people and probably a lot of other people of color can probably resonate with that. Like, it's not, the love that our parents show us is not always in a traditional sense. And I just thought that was such a lovely moment, because I was like, yeah, like, he's so right. Like, she does love him so much, and she may show it in untraditional ways or non-conventional ways, but like, she really does love him, and these are the actions that she's doing that kind of show that. And I feel like I really resonated with that, because I feel I have a very similar dynamic with my own mum. There were also loads of really cute Bollywood references, so if you're familiar with any Bollywood like classics, like classic movies, you'll probably recognize a lot of them from like the movies and the songs and stuff, which I just thought was really cool. It felt really nostalgic for me, and I think that's why I kind of like got so emotional watching it. And like, it wasn't bad emotional, it felt nostalgic, it felt comforting, it felt homely, and it felt like recognizable for me. And I think because of the family dynamics and stuff as well, and you know, it's a queer Indian man introducing his white partner to his family, and I can very much resonate with that. And I just thought it was a beautiful film. It was done really, really well. I think the performances from everyone was great, and I really enjoyed it. I would highly recommend watching it if you haven't already. And that was a solid 5-star watch from me. The next movie I want to talk about is the Fear Street Prom Queen movie. And let me just preface this by saying I don't have a single positive thing to say about this film. So if you enjoyed this, I apologize in advance, because I'm not going to say anything kind. I mean, I'll be kind, but I'm not saying anything nice. So if you don't know, Fear Street is a trilogy of movies that was brought out by Netflix. I want to say maybe like 2018, 2019, trilogy of movies that were all basically slasher films. And the slasher films were cliche in the sense that most slasher films are, but the way the trilogy was is that it basically told the lore of this serial killer from this kind of small town, and it went into the past, and then it went even further into the past, and it kind of it was all brought together within the trilogy of movies. For me personally, I wasn't actually the biggest fan of the movies as a whole. I liked the premise, I think the stories were cool, I just didn't necessarily enjoy the execution all that much. I don't think the actors or the main character actors were providing the best performance. I think the second movie of the trilogy was probably my favorite. It has Sadie Sink in it. I think she's very talented, and she kind of saved the movie in that sense, and I think the format of that film was what I preferred in a slasher movie. I also enjoyed parts of the third one, but the first one I just wasn't the biggest fan of. So let me just start there. I know that these movies are pretty popular because the main characters are queer. There are 2 lesbians in the movie, and naturally people are gonna resonate with it, people are gonna enjoy that. I think it's great. I love the representation, I'm here for it. That is not the parts of the film that I didn't like, obviously. So the newest movie, Fear Street Prom Queen, is not a part of the trilogy at all. I don't really know why this movie was made, because it wasn't a continuation of the story. It didn't kind of have any of the same lore and any of the same background and involve any of the same characters, so it kind of felt like very disconnected. So it was kind of pointless, in my opinion, making it a Fear Street movie, because it had nothing to do with Fear Street. The story is a classic slasher movie. There is actually not really anything that I could say about the storyline that is particularly special. It is literally some teenagers go to prom, serial killer, slasher, person with a knife is killing people, and they're trying to figure out who is under the mask. That is essentially it. In my opinion, quote unquote boring storyline. And don't get me wrong, I fucking love a good slasher movie. Scream is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love all of them. I have a ghost face tattoo, I have lots of Scream memorabilia. I fucking love Scream, okay? And I love a lot of other slashers. And I think particularly for me, because I grew up with slashers, I'm a millennial, they're the films that kind of came out when I was like 15, 16. I would watch them with my friends at sleepovers and stuff. They were fun. Love a good slasher. This one, boring, 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 boring. Boring storyline, boring kills, boring reveal at the end. It was just, I'm baffled at how this got made. I'm baffled at why, you know? Also, where are the gays? There was no gays, there was no lesbians, there was no queer representation at all. The 2 main characters, or the one main character, her best friend and her, extremely queer coded, very homoerotic vibes, and I don't know why they didn't just like take the plunge and just make them gay. It felt very weird. It felt like the people who made it were being homophobic. It's like the people who made it had nothing to do with the original trilogy, which I actually haven't looked into it because I don't care enough. So they could be completely different in terms of director, producer, writers, whatever. I thought it was terrible, if I'm being so real. I was so bored throughout it. I think the kills themselves were really boring, and like for me personally, I'm kind of like, that's like the best parts of a slasher movie, is the fun and interesting kills, the crazy way that the killer is going to kill people. Like that's the draw, you know. That's one of the fun bits, the bits that make you go, oh shit, you know, this is something crazy going on, and this is like a killer who's like not pulling any punches. The reveal itself of who the killer was, boring. There was also a twist which I personally saw coming a million miles away. If you didn't see the twist coming, did you have your eyes open? Let me just say that, okay? I have excellent pattern recognition. It's the autism. And I saw it coming a million miles away. And I was just like, Jesus Christ, this is terrible. It was so boring. I did not enjoy it at all. I think it's a complete disservice to the trilogy. And this is coming from somebody who doesn't even really enjoy the trilogy that much. And I'm just so confused as to why they made this. Like, it has nothing to do with the original trilogy, so maybe just make it a standalone movie. And I feel like it's put such a stain on the original movies, you know. And obviously by putting the Fear Street name next to it, people are going to assume that it's going to be a certain way, and when it doesn't, like, that's just incredibly disappointing. The script was also really terrible, and like the acting from all of the main characters was just really like stiff and wooden. Like, it felt very much like this was their first acting gig, which to be fair, it might have been for some of them, but I don't know, man, it just wasn't good. It just wasn't good at all. I did not enjoy this movie, and I would not recommend it. Okay, moving on to more positive things. I'm going to talk about a TV show called Assassination Classroom. This is an anime which I started watching a little while ago, and the premise is just so crazy that I was like, this sounds ridiculous, it sounds wild, but I am so intrigued. The premise is basically that these students of a very low ranked classroom, or low grade, low set, have been tasked with killing their teacher before the year is up, so that the teacher doesn't destroy the world. That's the premise. So we're starting off extremely strong, and I've got to say, I have not met an anime premise that sounds boring in my life. And bear in mind, I am very new to the world of anime, so it may happen, but every single thing is just so weird and so wild, and I'm like, whoever comes up with this, props to you guys. Because for me, and I think I've mentioned this before, I have only started watching anime at the beginning of last year, and I have never been able to predict a single thing that happens in any of these shows. And for somebody who is autistic and has good pattern recognition, that is sometimes like quite a bit of a drawback when I do consume a lot of media and do watch a lot of TV shows and movies, and I kind of end up like predicting what's going to happen by accident, just purely because I pick up on certain things, certain shots, certain music that they use, like the way the characters are, the words that they use, you know, different things that kind of tell me like who the killer is, or you know, what's going to happen and stuff like that. But with anime, I've never been able to. I've been shocked every time. I have been at my expectations have been subverted every single time, and I love that. That is like, I think, one of the best things for me about watching anime, because I can fully switch my brain off and actually enjoy the show. I'm not just like, oh okay, I basically had it spoiled for me because of the way that the people have made the show, you know, or the way the writers have written it. And I think because these premises are so weird and wacky and zany, like, I have a great time watching it, because the premises are so out there that I'm like, oh, this is completely unfamiliar to me, this is completely new territory, so there's no way I'm going to be able to like guess what happens. Back to the original show. So I absolutely love this. I think it is so fun, it is so good, and considering the premise of the show is actually relatively chill, like I feel like it's the perfect kind of show to watch whilst you're crocheting, or maybe like if you're doing something else, like you're folding laundry or doing chores or whatever, because it's engaging enough that you can obviously, you know, stay entertained by it, but then it's not so kind of complex that you have to like sit down and watch the entire thing like really intently, sort of thing. Obviously like pay attention, but it's a very good show that like I feel like even if I did get a little bit distracted, I'd be able to kind of keep on top of the premise pretty easily, or like what's going on and stuff. And that is honestly something that I really enjoy. And like as the kind of season progresses, you obviously get to know the characters a lot more. The character development is great. I feel like as well it's one of those shows where you kind of like you as the person watching it almost kind of like go on like a little bit of a learning journey as well, where you kind of see obviously the characters develop and grow, and they get taught all of these kind of like life lessons from the teacher and stuff, but you also experience it at the same time. If you're kind of younger maybe, and I'm not saying like a child, but I think if you're kind of like 18, 19, maybe you're like a little bit insecure, or you're trying to find your place in the world a little bit, even if you're a little bit older and you feel like that, I feel like it's a really good show because it just feels very grounding as well, considering the premise, which I know is a wild thing to say, that this show of all shows is grounding, but I really do believe that. I will say there is, and I've noticed that this is a little bit of a pattern with a lot of animes, there is like a weird sexualization of some of the characters, and not any of the kids, luckily, thank God, because that is also something that happens in anime which really weirds me out. But in one of the characters, who is like one of the female teachers, she is like hyper sexual, which is fine, you know, I am not saying that that's a bad thing, let your freak flag fly, but it's just a bit, it feels a little bit out of place considering this is a TV show with a lot of children in it, so it just feels a little bit like inappropriate in places. It's not super bad, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's like fan service bad, because there are some shows where I'm like, I cannot physically watch this, but I will say that compared to some of the other shows I've watched where there's very clear and blatant fan service, particularly like towards the women, they do a better job of kind of actually incorporating it into the storyline. For me personally, I think shows like Fire Force, where Tamaki, her fan service makes me extremely uncomfortable because it has absolutely no place in the storyline, and like it's got an element of like, I don't know, it's got an element of like perviness to it that makes me really uncomfortable. And I actually ended up like stopping watching Fire Force because for one of those reasons of the fan service makes me so incredibly uncomfortable, but also because I just wasn't a fan of it. But yeah, I think with shows like Fire Force, and they kind of just do the fan service and it has no place in the storyline at all, they're just showing tits and ass for tits and ass, that is the part that I find uncomfortable. In Assassination Classroom, it's done in a way where it is actually relevant, but it does feel like you're kind of like, okay, this is unnecessary, but it's not relevant to the storyline, if that makes any sense. So if you're kind of a little bit like me and maybe you're not the biggest fan of that, then don't watch it. I'm going to talk about some spoilery things, so this is your warning. This is a spoiler warning officially. I will put a timestamp on the screen somewhere for you to skip to, so if you do want to watch this show and you don't want the ending spoiled for you, please skip to the timestamp now. I'm going to pause and give you a few seconds. Skip to the timestamp now. We're going to talk about spoilers of Assassination Classroom. So obviously the whole premise of the show is for them to kill their teacher before the teacher like destroys the world, and I had a feeling that they would succeed, but the way that they obviously built up the connection between Koro sensei, who's the teacher, and the kids in the classroom was done in such an excellent way that when it came to them having to kill him in like the final episodes, oh my god, I was in fucking tears. I personally watch it in English dub because I can't read. No, I can read, but I like to crochet whilst I'm watching TV shows, and I can't do it. I can't keep up. So I watched the English dub version, and Nagasa's scream that he lets out after he kills him, I was like, oh my god, that was the most like visceral, heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, like just painful scream that I have ever heard in a TV show or movie. Like I was like, this is awful. The way they were all crying afterwards, I'm not actually getting a little bit emotional talking about it, but the way they were all, the way that they did that kind of scene where they killed him, the way that all of the voice actors, you know, portrayed each character was so good, and it was so heartbreaking that I was like, I need to turn this off. I was like, I have to turn this off. I have to go outside and I need to go hug my rabbit, you know. I was like, it was really like, it was almost like a tough watch because of how good it was. But ultimately I really enjoyed the ending of the show. I think it was really well done, and I think that they made the right decision like to kill him, because obviously that was like, you know, the intentions of the show. So it was good. I think it was good that they kind of made that the ending. Okay, we are back from the spoilers. If you have skipped ahead, well done, you missed all the spoilers. The final show that I want to talk about is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, and if you are unfamiliar with this TV show, it's a reality show that is on Disney Plus. They basically show the lives of the mums from Mum Talk on TikTok, and they are all Mormons. I had to stop watching this show halfway through like season 2. I did watch all of season 1, and then season 2 came out relatively recently, and yeah, I had to stop watching it because it was making me extremely hateful. I usually really fuck with a reality show. I have watched Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, I watch RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't mind a lot of reality shows. I think a lot of them are like quite terrible. I used to really fuck with Love Island back in the day. I haven't watched any of the newer seasons just because I'm just not into it anymore. But this show, I was like, I need to stop watching. Is everyone okay? Is everyone in that show okay? They don't seem to be, okay? I think they all need to get divorced. They need to stop having babies, and they all need to go to therapy. And it's funny because every time I kind of watch a reality show, like, I'm usually rooting for somebody. There's usually somebody who I'm like, okay, everyone else is like a little bit weird, a little bit crazy, and like, you know, completely nonsensical, maybe just doing it for the drama or whatever. But there's usually like 1 or 2 people who seem relatively normal and like have their head screwed on, who aren't like, don't seem to be there for like the drama or whatever, or whatever the scenario is. But in this show, no, I'm not rooting for a single one of them. For a little while I thought Taylor was probably the most normal. Some of her decisions, questionable. I think she's probably the most normal out of all of them, but like she says in the show, she needs to go to therapy, and she's aware of it. I think she's probably the most self-aware out of all of the mums on the show. And honestly, I think the worst part of it is that they keep bringing children into it. Like, I get obviously their whole thing is that they're mums and they're all mum talk, but like, stop having babies, stop having children and bringing them into this shit. Stop having these like really horrible conversations around your children. Like, I just found it so baffling. And like, there was one I was gonna say character, but they're real people, they're real humans. There was one person who found out she was pregnant, and she was kind of like considering divorcing her husband and stuff, like while she found out she was pregnant. She's sad about it. She's sad about finding out she's pregnant. She's sad about the reality of being a mother again, and also having another child with this man who she's not even sure she wants to be with. And I just find that reality really, really sad. The fact that she thinks that she's got no other option, I think that's extremely sad. And I was like, stop having children, stop bringing kids into this. So anyway, I hate this show. I hate it so much. I literally had to stop watching it. I'm not like, you know, if you watch reality TV show and you enjoy it, that's cool. I'm not going to judge you for it, but I will be judging these people, and I don't like them. And I think for me personally, like, I just can't watch a show that makes me so like annoyed. Like, I can't hate watch stuff. There's other shows out there that don't make me feel hateful, and I don't like feeling hateful, you know. I have enough hate. I have enough things to hate in this world. I don't need more things to hate. So I do not recommend it. If you are similar to me, if you enjoy reality TV shows, you're probably gonna love it. But it's just not for me. I had to stop watching it, and I am very glad that I made the decision to stop watching it, because it would not have ended well. But that is the last show that I want to talk about. This is the end of episode 2 of Stitch and Screen. I hope you have enjoyed watching. Obviously, if you did, leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Have you watched any of the TV shows I've talked about? Any of the movies? What are you watching at the moment? I'm always down for taking on recommendations of what people are watching, what's been on your screen, and let me know what projects you're working on. Let me know what stitches you are doing, and of course, if you enjoy crochet content, then subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you on the next one.